G'day folks. Well, I finally got my tyre fitting machine back home after it's been on loan for about a year or so, maybe 2 years. Good machine, I've used it plenty of times. I had it installed down at the local scrapyard and they just simply stopped using it and got a bit lazy, so I figured I'd take it back and give it a refurb. The thing leaks air like mad. The bead breaker ram seal is leaking, the table clamp seal is leaking. I'm redoing that at the moment. The main front seal on the ram is just gone. There's no obvious seal, so I'm guessing it's just an O-ring that fits inside that aluminium front plate. Very simple ram, brass tube, rubber piston, rubberized piston with a nylon stop, and that's about it. I'm just going to have to take that nut off, run everything off the shaft and then replace whatever's in here, because this is the clamp side. It has to pull in that way, drive the piston that way to clamp the table, and the thing just leaks like a sieve, so my poor little air system just drops very quickly. It was down to about 50 psi before I'd even got to the point of breaking a bead, so that shows how bad it's gotten to. And I don't have the money to buy a 3 or 5 horsepower rotary screw compressor to replace it, so yeah, I'm going to stick with silent refrigeration compressors, but I just got to be careful of how much air I use, or at least as many minimise the leaks. So if I'm going to install this out in the carport, I want to get rid of all the leaks, or at least most of them. Top end doesn't leak. I've already replaced all these fittings when I got it. I've replaced all the fittings on the turntable. I just need to get in there and replace fittings, maybe even replace valves, like for the bead breaker and the table clamp. But the main culprit are the rams. They'll just leak. So yeah, I got this one apart for refurb. I'm going to clean everything up spotless, see about replacing the seal in this end plate, and should be good. These end plate seals are still soft and pretty tough, so I'm not going to bother replacing them. I don't have them in stock, and my local bearing seal and power transmission place is shut down and moved to Dandenong, so I can't exactly go down the road and buy one on Monday, which is unfortunate. Yeah, it's got a part number on the piston rod there, so I might even be able to find a replacement, but it's not hard, it's still springy and soft. It's good rubber. It's been well oiled. It had an inline oiler on the back of it, so it's been lubricated its whole life. It's not all scored out. Hasn't had oil in it for a while, but when I took the ram off, all this machine tool or air tool oil poured out, so that's a good sign. It's just unfortunate the outer seals have been eaten by dirt and whatnot falling off the table and on the bead breaker arm. But that's what you get. It is a tyre machine. You will get dirt and water and debris falling off the tyres as you mount and dismount them, and it just eats things out. So yeah, it needs adjustment, needs air fittings and seals replaced, and it'll be perfectly good for another, I don't know, 20-30 years. I think would have been made in the 80s or even 70s. Anyway, let's get on with it. Okay, well, trying to find a seal for one of these things is kind of hard because it's sort of a halfway between a normal spring-loaded V-seal and, well, a flat rectangular section O-ring. So I essentially just found a very, very fine O-ring that fit inside the V, forced it down in there, and we'll just leave it as it is. It's tight, it's sealed. I can't, if CBC hadn't closed, I'd be able to go down the street and just buy a full set of everything to go in here, but basically I've either got to just put it all down, or at least get everything apart and then make a trip to Dandenong or Frankston or something like that and hope to dear God they've got it in stock, which they don't always have it, or make do with what I've got. So I've made this seal work again. The seal itself isn't scored, it was just completely full of debris and couldn't close up again, so it sort of got stuck in its one little position. So thankfully with air pushing on this side, it's actually going to force that O-ring into the V and make it a really nice tight seal, so that's good. It can stay as it is. I'm just going to clean up and finish polishing the shaft. There's a bit of rust there, a bit of a score mark, but again, it's going to get eaten out anyway, so I'd rather just keep it going as it is. Anyway, let's get the cylinder back together again. A bit of Teflon tape from the end cap, or not the end cap, the piston. So I'll put Teflon tape on there so air can't travel from side to side on the thread. Looks like there's a groove for a small O-ring, but it's been apart once before, and it looks like they've replaced the piston, but they didn't replace the seal, or at least they did replace it, and it didn't last very long. Okay, all the cylinder cleaned up nicely. It's all back together again and sealed, and it works. Let's clamp. Yeah, that's alright. It's just the rest of the leaks. All the old fittings on the old valves. Both of these two here are just leaking like mad. I'm hoping it's not the valves themselves, because they look old. They're probably an industry standard of about 20 something years ago, but I don't know how I'll go adapting new ones. But I do have a fair amount of new valves, which I'd basically just have to build a whole new system to operate. That'll go electric. Have that as a rotary switch or a toggle switch, and have 240 volts pilot valves in the back of it, so power always has to be on, which it does anyway. You can't use the turntable without power, so it makes sense that you connect 240 volts instead of 3-phase. That way the VFD gets power, the control valves get power, and everything is, rather than mechanically actuated valves like the bead breaker, that will be operated off of electrical power. I mean, electrical power to operate the valve, not the cylinder, but you know what I mean. It just needs modernising, essentially. The old stuff's old, it's leaking, it's time to modernise it, make it work properly. I can't hear any leaks up the top here, so that's good. I guess I better flip it on its side and get underneath it and start sealing them up, because everything else seems to be alright. That, and replace the ram seal in the bead breaker. Okay, so I found a hidden union that's causing a problem. Every single one of these is pissing air out. That's where most of the leak was. It's tucked up under there, and the air, or the noise bouncing off the floor, made me think most of it was down here. But those do leak, but nowhere near as much. So if I can eliminate this, it's not a problem. I'm just going to have to rebuild it from scratch with new fittings. I'll use the T, but that's about it. The rest of this is all the rubber O-ring that's down in here is completely shot, and they're just leaking. So yeah, these push fit ones, you just push the collar in and you can pull the hose out. Again, I'll just cut that little end off there and reuse the existing hose, I think. Might replace it. I mean, I've got miles of the stuff in stock anyway, so that wouldn't hurt to replace it with new stuff like I have here. Yeah, we'll see how we go. And same with down the bottom there, there's another 2 out of 1 T-piece there which could be replaced. Just all the old air fittings are leaking like mad, and the bead breaker main shaft seal is leaking, and that's about it. After that, this thing should be airtight. Okay, so that's main distribution reworked. I'm just using a combination of new and old fittings that I've got, bits off the Battenfeld moulding machine. Same with the hose, that's all some kind of Japanese 5x8mm. Works perfectly, especially with these compression fittings. So I've got to run new hose up to the air inlet, which is that one. That one there goes down and feeds the bead breaker. They're all 8mm hose. And the rest of it branches off to the smaller stuff like the clamp and the table. So very easy. Just got to rerun these and get all these old fittings off and replaced. Gonna have to, oh yeah, I can take the entire switch out in most cases by the looks of it. Yeah, take these front screws off and I'll be able to pull the whole assembly out and work on it outside of the unit. Much easier than trying to do it in there. Okay, so that's the bead breaker valve. I'm going to give this thing a really good wash. Really good wash. And then fit 2 new fittings and 2 new hoses. Yeah. And See, there's a limiter in there. It limits how far the valve can travel. You don't want the bead breaker coming in too fast, so it's just got a stop set to it. Anyway, I'll give that a clean up and yeah, see if I've got enough fittings. The 8mm ones are in fairly short supply. There's a few kicking around, particularly on this cylinder and other bits of the old Battenfeld moulding machine, so I think that's what I'm going to be pillaging most of, is just old Battenfeld stuff. Okay, well, there's the bead breaker pedal redone. Just got to put it back in and reconnect it. Completely forgot that I had this box of bits. I was just looking around wondering where the main valves from the Battenfeld went, and I figured I'd have a bit of a poke around, and sure enough I found where they went. And they've all got the same kind of fittings that I need on them, so there is no shortage of fittings now. Tons of brand new brass plate, chrome plated brass tees. A lot of that stuff's from McDonald Johnson garbage trucks. All this stuff's Johnson Engineering. A lot of the new valves, there's a brand new valve there from Johnson Engineering. Yeah, really good stuff. Tons of relays that don't need to be in there. Well, that's a relay, but they're all 24 volt, 10, 20 amp, 24 volt. It's all old garbage truck pneumatic system equipment. Same with the brackets and things. It has to have a final sort through it and throw out anything that's completely stuffed or irrelevant, like the relays, 24 volt relays. Anyway, that definitely doesn't need to be in there. Let's put this back in again and hook it back up. I've still got to get the bead breaker cylinder out, but that's not hard. I can drop it out the bottom.